In this video, I'm gonna rank all the 90 films I saw this year from all the industries. Let's go. Hello guys, I'm Nona Prince, and as it's the end of the year, it's time to make our best of the year video. I've been doing this for last 6 years now, where I rank everything I saw in that year in 3 different levels. It's something different we do on the channel. So how does it work? We have 3 different levels, level 3, level 2 and level 1. Level 3 is for the films which are not perfect. They had a lot of issues with them, but there was something or the other that kind of stood out, which worked. And I would recommend these films if you have nothing else to watch. Then we have level 2, which are really good films, but there was something or the other that didn't work, and because of that the films didn't feel complete. These are the films which you have time, you should definitely check them out. And then we come to level 1 for the films which just worked overall. It's not about being perfect, but feeling complete, doing what they were set out to be, and they just work as a whole. And these are the must watch films from the year. Now of course, a big disclaimer, like always, these are my choices. Of course there will be some biases. Over time your opinion changes for a film. Some after watching the second time become better, and it all comes to how much those films have stayed with me. Now there's one more thing to note, that I've been doing this for 6 years and I always get comments saying how could you put this film and this film together in one level, there's no comparison, etc. But remember, it's not about comparing those films. Each film, depending on how it worked for me, will rank in either one of the levels. It has nothing to do with what other films are in that level. It's all about the merit of that film and where does it stand in the 3 levels. I hope this clear things out, but I know still there will be a lot of comments, and that's a good thing. Definitely let me know your list, your levels in the comments below. In this playlist you can check out the detailed reviews of some of the films I'm talking about today. Now of course I couldn't watch every film that released this year, that's next to impossible, and definitely there are many of them which would have made this list. So on screen right now you can see the films that I missed, and whenever I get to watch them I'll update in the comments at which level they lie. Now of course there are films which I saw which don't come in any level, they are beyond it, they are level 0. So on the screen you can see those films right now. I have nothing more to say about them. So it's time to start, and if you enjoy these kind of videos, definitely hit that like button. It's the last video of the year and I'll really appreciate that. So let's start with level 3 first. There is no ranking of them, all of them are in alphabetical order. First is the Telugu film 35 Chinna Kathagadu, a really wholesome family drama I got to watch at the film festival. For my taste, I did find it very over dramatic, but it's still a nice watch. Next is the Malayalam film Abraham Osler. Saw this film at the start of the year. A nice serial killer film which kind of sets up a part 2 because the story is kind of unresolved, but it does have a lot of cliches. Next is the Tamil biopic Amran. The standout was a relationship in the film with Sai Pallavi and Siva Karthikeyan, but other than that it was quite average. Next is the Hollywood film Argyle. I know a lot of people hate this film, but I kind of was surprised and really enjoyed the film in theaters. It very much stands out from typical Hollywood blockbuster. Next is Bhaiya Ji. Not so great film, but the people that came together to make this desi mass film with Manoj Bajpayee as a center very shines in that performance heavy bits, but the film fails when it tries to get into the action. Next is the Kannada film Blink, a sci-fi time travel film. A very interesting idea concept, but the execution was subpar. Next is the Malayalam thriller Bougainvillea. Amal Neerad back with his style of filmmaking. The narrative stands out, I would say one of his best films, but overall a one-time watch. Next is the Hindi biopic Chandu Champion. Really well made. It has all the emotions, but it follows that typical template formula. Karthikeyan gave his best, but his best is not the best. Next is the Netflix film Control by Vikramaditya Motwani. One of his weakest film definitely, starring Ananya Pandey, who does a good job. Interesting idea and concept, but it felt very surface level. Next is the Hindi film Do Aur Do Pyar. Very different film. We are not used to watching something like this in Hindi or in India. Talks about infidelity, how people who have fallen apart come back and fall in love together. Good performances, and I would say a one-time watch. Next is the Hollywood blockbuster that failed miserably, The Fall Guy. The concept of following the life of an action hero stunt double is very fascinating, but they didn't utilize the idea really well. They just went too big like a typical Hollywood blockbuster. Next is Mad Max Furiosa. This franchise is very different, very stylistic, and this film is a nice addition, but it is a prequel and kind of does a disservice to the first film. It felt like it doesn't know where does it stand. A one-time watch. Next is surprising, the Tamil film Goat, greatest of all time, starring Thalapathy Vijay. Now not the best film at all. The plot is very weak. It ends up being a typical hero film, but getting to see a evil Vijay was the highlight, and just for that it's worth watching. Next is the Malayalam film Guru Vayur Ambalandayai. Very hard to pronounce. It had a really solid concept, very interesting first half, but goes downhill from there, trying to bring in that chaos, but it just doesn't work. But still, for the performances, for the laughs, you can watch it. Next is the Telugu superhero film Hanuman. For its budget, the things they were trying to pull off was very ambitious. It's a fun fun film to watch, could have been much better, but those last 2 minutes stand out. Next is the Hollywood film called If Imaginary Friends, saying Ryan Reynolds. It tries to be Inside Out but doesn't really get there, but still a fine one-time watch. Next is the Hollywood film Joker 2. I know a lot of people hate it, but for me even the first one was okayish and even this one was okay. One-time watch. Next is a surprising one, the pan-Indian film Kalki 2898 AD. Now I thought a lot about this film. Is it level 3? Is it level 2? Definitely not level 1, but I ended up with level 3 because I think the first half, the ideas are so good, like it's so ambitious, so amazing. It's, like the world they build is outstanding, but that first half with Prabhas's character, the way they build things, it just really drags the film down. It leaves a sour taste, and whenever you think about the film, that's what you're reminded of. Yes, the second half just pulls it amazingly well, but it's just not enough. And I just hope when the next one comes out, it's in level 2 or level 1. Next is the Bollywood film Khel Khel Mein with Akshay Kumar and a big ensemble cast. It is a remake of a Spanish film, but I think they did a good job with it. The humor works. Akshay Kumar just fits in so well. There are many typical things they do which brings it down, but still a good one-time watch. Next is the Malayalam film Kondal. A really good setup. They get the mass right, at least in the setup, but when it comes to execution, it just doesn't work. And that's why in my review I said this should be remade by Telugu because they do justice to it. Next is the animated film Kung Fu Panda 4, and it was a big, disappointment. Still a fun film. It has those jokes, but no soul. Next is the Malayalam film Level Cross. Really interesting idea, really good performance by Asif Ali, but it felt just very surface level. Next is the Telugu film Lucky Bhaskar, a very different kind of big scale Telugu film shouldered by DQ. There were many things that didn't work for me that well, but there are way more pros than the cons. Next is the Bollywood film Madgaon Express. It's hilarious, the cast does a great job, but a one-time watch. Next is another Hindi biopic, Maidan, on the golden era of Indian football. It is technically very solid, does a really good job. Last 40 minutes are outstanding, gives you goosebumps, but just a bit tad long and needed a lot more refinement. Next is the Malayalam film Malayali from India, from the director of Janagana Mana with Naveen Pauly. There were a lot of expectations. They built the film very well, but yeah, it just doesn't land. There are very interesting points the film is trying to make, being a satire, but it felt really half-cooked. Next is a Malayalam action film Marco, the most violent film definitely I've seen on screen, but as I said in my review, violence is not enough to carry a whole film. Next is the Ministry of the Ungentlemanly Warfare, a very fun, interesting film starring Henry Cavill and an ensemble cast, a one-time watch. Next is the Bollywood horror comedy Munjia. Interesting idea, interesting concept. There are some good gags, but nothing more than that. It just couldn't rise above it like the other films in this franchise have. Next is the Malayalam comedy Premalu, a very fun film, very relatable film. It does go a bit far, but still entertaining. Next is the Tamil film Ryan, the Dhanush directorial. Really well made, technically really solid, but halfway through the plot it just loses me. Next is the Bollywood supernatural thriller Shaitan. It executes it really well. It doesn't become cringy at all, but nothing special also. One-time watch. Next is the Bollywood biopic Shrikant, starring Rajkumar Rao, and he was the star in the film. Just because of him, this film is in level 3. Apart from that, I felt the making was just too ordinary, unlike the story it was telling. Next is the Malayalam thriller Thalavan, starring Biju Menon and Asif Ali, and the ego clash between them. Wanted more of it, and it also sets up a part 2, which was interesting, but didn't leave a big impact. Next is Vada, a biopic of a billion kids. It is fun, it is coming of age story. It talks about different things men go through growing up, but didn't leave a lasting impact. And the last film in level 3 is Varshangala Shesham, the Vineet Srinivasan film. I know people call it very cringy, but I enjoy the hopefulness and optimism of the director, and it's an entertaining film to watch, but a one-time watch. So that was level 3 for you. How many of the picks do you agree till now? But now let's get to level 2. First is All India Rank, a film by Varun Grover, a very grounded film based on getting into IIT, the coaching thing, which we have seen now many times, but it's still a very different take on it. But I wish it was saying a bit more. Next is the Bollywood action film Kill, the best action film of 2024. So well done, so well executed. There were very few loose points, otherwise it would have made level 1 easily. Next is the Malayalam thriller Anveshipin Kandetam, starring Tovino Thomas, a very different kind of investigation thriller. It does a great job at it. It makes you surprised, but needed something more to stand out among the best of the thrillers. Next is the Bollywood political thriller Article 370. It's really well made, so intense with really good performances. I wish the climax was better, and also there's the angle of propaganda. Next is the Hindi spy thriller Berlin, a very different film than what we expect, from Tiger or Pathan. It's very grounded, it's nuanced, it's not about good versus evil, but in the grey area, and really has some good performance. Next is the Malayalam supernatural thriller Brahmayugam, starring Mammootty as the antagonist, a black and white horror film which is not about the jump scares, but more nuanced and layered things. Again, the climax portion didn't work that well for me. Technically needed more work there, but overall what a fantastic film. Next is the Tamil film Captain Miller. Came out early in the year, not many talk about it, but for me it really stood out with its filmmaking. Really grand, had that scale, but also grounded. It was just a tad bit long. Next is the only Marvel film that came out this year, Deadpool and Wolverine. Really enjoyed it. it, had a blast. They could have gone so many different directions, but they stick to the core of the story between the characters. And it was not just about the characters, but also a metaphor to the whole different universes, which really clicked for me. Next is the Malayalam film Family, a very raw and different film, which is very hard to digest, but the rewatchability value is very low. Next is the Malayalam sci-fi mockumentary Gaganachari, really crazy, really fun. The satire works, the ideas, the concepts are very, very interesting, and now they're actually making a spin-off. But overall, I felt a one-time watch. Next is the Amazon Prime film Girls Will Be Girls. It got recently released, won many awards at film festivals. Really nuanced, really tender, very sensitively dealt with. The only demerit would be it's a bit slow. Next is The Goat Life or Adu Jeevitam. Prithviraj just killed it. It is an experience, but those flashback sequences just didn't land for me. Next is the Netflix film Hitman. Didn't know anything going into it. Really enjoyed it. Glenn Powell is amazing. And I liked how it mixed humor with philosophy. Next is Sujit Sarkar's film I Want to Talk, starring Abhishek Bachchan. Very unique, very different for Indian audiences. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but again the rewatchability value is low. Next is Jigra with Alia Bhatt, directed by Vasant Bala. Really like the experience of this film. Maybe the climax could have been more exciting and more structured, but still is a really good experience with really solid performance. Next is the Hollywood film Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the start of the next trilogy of the Planet of the Apes films. And I'm a big fan of the first trilogy, and this film was really, really good. What a way to start a new one, with a lot of social context, using the previous technology as a mythology for this universe and how that mythology is perceived by everyone else, how differently. Had a good time watching this one. Next is the Bollywood film Lapata Ladies. Sadly, it's out of the Oscar race, but still a fun, simple watch. I think that's why it stands out. There are very few things which I didn't like, but overall a good film. Next is the Tamil film Lover, for which I said it's an answer to a film like Arjun Reddy. It's layered, it's nuanced, it talks about the issue really well, but it has that element of frustration in. Next is the Tamil film Labbar Pandu. This film was a big surprise, came out of nowhere, and the way it packages all of the things it has together, it's really, really good. There are a few things that didn't land for me that well, but overall a really fine watch. Next is a Tamil film Maharaja with Vijay Sethupathi and Anurag Kashyap, who delivers an outstanding performance. The screenplay of this film is the king. There are some problematic things, but it still leaves you shocked. Next is Merry Christmas by Shivan Raghavan, starring Vijay Sethupathi and Katrina Kaif. A really solid thriller, but not as exciting as Andhadhun. Next is the Malayalam film Paradise, a really interesting film with a social message set in Sri Lanka, but I did feel it could have been a little more subtle. Next is the pan-Indian blockbuster Pushpa 2, maybe a controversial pick, but I definitely enjoyed the film a lot. The demerit will be the use of Fahad Fasil. It would have been much better, but other than that, everything it wanted to, it delivered on it. Next is the Netflix film Rebel Ridge. Again, came out of nowhere, a very different kind of a film, feels very grounded. It has those big high moments, but it just doesn't deliver on it, and that's the only flaw I had. Next is the Telugu film Saripoda Sanivaram, really enjoyable film, a massive film with an outstanding writing, but it was those massy moments which didn't reach that high I wanted to. Next is the Netflix film Sector 36 or Sector 36, a really hard-hitting film based on true events with some outstanding performances. The ending kind of leaves you unclear what they were trying to do. Next is the Malayalam thriller Sukshama Darshini with Nazri and Basil Joseph. Really enjoyable, really fun. It gets things right, but that final reveal doesn't work that well. Next is the Hindi blockbuster of the year Stree 2. Really enjoyed it in the theatre. Does the world building of this universe really well. It's enjoyable, but the climax portion technically were not up to the mark. And the last film in the list is the Hollywood animated film The Wild Robot. Again, I had no idea, just went to the theatre, watch it. It was so good, so hopeful, so lovely, showed what animated films can really do, and I had a really good time watching it. And that was level 2. If you're enjoying this, do hit the like button. Now let's come to level 1, and by chance it only has 10 films. So let's start. The first film is Atom, an amazing one-chamber room drama, very much like a 12 Angry Men, but it's a topic they're discussing which is just outstanding, so bold, definitely a must watch. Next is All We Imagine Is Light. Got to watch it in theaters during IFFI, and there's a reason the film is getting so many awards and international recognition. It won the Grand Prix. It is outstanding crafted display. Next is Amar Singh Chamkila, Imtiaz Ali's Netflix film with Diljit Dosanjh, Paniti Chopra, and what an outstanding biopic, one of the best in Indian cinema, because it's just not talking about the person, but with that it's also trying to have a debate with the audience about censorship, about what is right, what is wrong, who decides that, and that makes this film so relevant today, and actually it will always be relevant because of the topic. Next is the Hollywood film Dune 2. The first one was okayish. It feels incomplete, you're not sure how to really think about it, but it's the second one which really builds it up to an amazing climax. It literally gave me highs, that massive feel watching it in theaters, and I actually went to watch it twice. Next is the animated film Inside Out. There's always high pressure when a sequel comes out, and it just delivers so well. It raises the stakes, it introduces more new emotions, and yet again, the way it depicts how the mind works is just outstanding, and yet tell a convincing and emotional narrative which feels so relatable. Next is the Malayalam thriller Kishkinda Kandam. We have seen many thrillers from Malayalam, but this one really stands out because of the way it delivers it, how it really throws up of what's the reality, and when we get it, we feel the shock, we feel the trauma, we feel the pain, but there's also closure, and none of it feels scheming. That's the best part. Next is the Tamil film Kottukali from the director of Pebbles. Outstanding film. It says so much through its visuals. The performances are outstanding. It's the film which is saying so much without even saying it. Next is the Tamil film Meyyadagan, one of my favorite films of the year. From the first 5 minutes itself, it just connected with me and I just couldn't let it go. I was lucky enough to watch the director's cut, the whole vision intact, and just fall in love with these characters that you can just, be with them forever. That's how good the film is. Next is the Malayalam film Uluk with Parvati and Urvashi, an outstanding family drama. So well done, so many metaphors. The way the film uses its setting, I was just blown away by it. And the last film is the Tamil film Vadai by Mari Selvaraj, a stunning film, director telling his own story in a way and immortalizing his past, which would otherwise would have been forgotten. And the way he does it, the restraint he shows, that's the craft of filmmaking. And that was level 1. We completed talking about 90 films. I hope I haven't missed a film I saw this year. If that's the case, I'll update in the comments below. It's always fun to make such lists, to go through everything you saw in the year and then put them in the level you think they are. But something which is not fun is watching films in theaters nowadays. And that's what I talked about in this video. If you haven't seen, definitely check it out. Why movie theaters are killing cinema. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And the last video of the year. Thank you for watching and I will see you next year.